Look, jumping exercises aren't just loads of fun, but they permanently reshape your body's structure as well as its efficiency. And it helps you advance the 4 major aspects of fitness, which are strength, endurance, coordination, and flexibility. And today we're gonna get into how jumping changes your body, why you definitely need to start reclaiming that power again, and how you can go from a total jumping beginner to a vertical leap master. So if you're ready, let's go and have some fun. The benefits, starting with RFD, or rate of force production, which is basically how fast you can produce force, which is the single best predictor of vertical jump height in athletes. Jump training teaches your body how to create power instantly, doing so by recruiting more fast twitch instead of slow twitch muscle fibers, which are incidentally also the ones that lead to more size when it comes to muscles. Improved intermuscular coordination. High velocity jumping teaches your body how to fire the muscles in the right sequence. And if you've been on this channel before, you know how much emphasis we put on coordination, which can make or break pretty much any sort of training you do. And jumping is perfect at teaching your body how to coordinate the lower body musculature to fire in the right way. And this also ties directly into force production. And while we talked a little bit about fast twitch muscle fibers, working on that also increases the amount of recruited motor units, which also lead to a higher firing rate, basically changing your fiber type behavior, not only when it comes to producing fast force, but when it comes to producing fast force multiple times fast in a row. Increased muscle fascicle length, especially in our quads and our calves. And while this is a subtle change, parts of your muscle actually become longer, helping them contract much faster. Now, one of the best benefits of such explosive workouts is increasing your anaerobic capacity or your anaerobic power output. If you remember some of your high school biology stuff, you will know that we can produce both aerobic as well as anaerobic power, meaning with oxygen or without oxygen. Faster, more explosive movements are more anaerobic power output because it needs to be quick and instant. Which also means that directly and indirectly we're working on our cardiovascular system and its efficiency. Not to mention, of course, that we get increased bone density, especially in our tibia and our femur, from classic conditioning benefits. The more often you have impact on those bones, the more you tell your brain to strengthen those bones because we need them to be stronger. And of course, part of the coordination benefits are better proprioception and better landing mechanisms. Very important, for instance, when growing older, to have both the speed as well as the coordination and the strength to stop ourselves from falling, which leads to the most injuries in old age. And then I left the most important thing for last: improved hip functionality. We've gone into the importance of hip functionality and mobility when it comes to longevity so often, and by now you should definitely know that hip health is directly correlated to quality of life as we age, and jumping is a perfect way to work on that, to become much stronger, much faster, both in the extension as well as in the flexion phase. And working on our hip mobility in conjunction with our knee and ankle mobility, basically making those perfect exercises for lower body mobility in general. First things first, we need grade A lower body mobility. And lucky for you, there is one super simple exercise you can utilize to work on that, being, of course, the classic ATG deep squat. If you have the necessary mobility to sit down into a full ass to grass squat with flat feet in a relaxed manner, you will have all the necessary mobility you need to be able to jump super high. If you do not, however, you will start working on your deep squats with elevated heels, making it far easier to lower down all the way while working on your hip, knee and ankle mobility. Over time, those will improve, as well as your core strength and hip flexor strength will improve enough to reduce said elevation and flatten your feet during the deep squat, because the squat will be our foundation for the rest of the mobility exercises, with these exercises already connecting coordination with muscular endurance and mobility. We will start with classic asymmetrical internal hip rotations, knee in front of your toes, reverse and repeat on the other side as a singular exercise. Work on abduction and external hip rotation by moving outwards with our knee, activating our posterior chain while lengthening our anterior chain. Now adding some flexibility benefits to this exercise, and of course reversing and repeating on the other side. We will double down on internal rotations by crossing over having one long range of motion and one short range of motion. And it also means we're going to double down on abduction and external hip rotation by doing those kneeling pseudo hip thrusts. Also very much strengthening our hip flexors by pulling our knees in and working a lot on our balance, which we're also going to need for jumping exercises. And then we're going to put all of this together into one of the best, if not the best, lower body mobility exercise, which is the 90-90 switch, sitting down all the way, complete ankle extension and reversing and moving into the other direction. Now combining internal and external hip rotation, going through complete extension and flexion in our ankles as well, and working a lot on strengthening all the musculature surrounding our hip joints, our knee and ankle joints, to further our jump ability. For the full mobility routine on this, you can check out this video where we go through this step by step and break down all the benefits you can get from this single movement pattern. This video is sponsored by the most important person on this platform, which is you. You, my dear viewer, by liking this video, subscribing to this channel, and watching the whole thing to the end. Not only do you give me the motivation to make even more such videos, but you're also helping me to buy the most gourmet food for my 2 cats, so they do not kill me in my sleep. Now, when it comes to strength, while you will be spamming deep squats like it's nobody's goddamn business, there are a handful of exercises that perfectly translate their strength into jumping capability. So next to the classic deep squat, adding weighted squats will make you far more effective at jumping higher, and through the longer range of motion you've built through those mobility exercises, you will also be able to squat much deeper with added resistance, increasing your range of motion, making this exercise more effective. And a good rule of thumb is being able to squat at the very least your own body weight once, and I mean ass to grass, all the way down, all the way up. And to no one's surprise, we're also going to add deadlifts. However, while the deadlift has benefits both throughout the positive as well as the negative movements, when it comes to pure jumping strength, if that is your only goal, you can leave out half of this movement. Only focus on explosive positive movements. Release, start all over again. Explosive positive movements. And release. This is going to translate into the exact strength we need for movements such as this, because this is all about hip extension strength, and the deadlift does that perfectly. As for the final strength exercise, and never ever skip this if you truly want to become a jumping master, we've got the Bulgarian split squat. However, we have a handful of variations that are going to make this exercise way more effective, especially when it comes to jumpability. Technique number 1, resistance only on one side. While this will keep us from moving maximum weight and working on our 1 rep max when it comes to Bulgarian split squats, which I don't think anyone does, it will help us work way more on balance, especially when it comes to our core musculature, and even more so when it comes to our ankles and everything surrounding them, the tendons, the ligaments, and the musculature responsible for keeping us from being unbalanced and helping us stay in control during a movement pattern, with the weight being on one side and of course moving it to the other side, totally shifting the focus of our movement pattern. Trick number 2, in which we will add fast positive movements, meaning we're always gonna lower down carefully and then with explosiveness move up and reverse, move up. Reverse. Next to building the explosive strength while utilizing the Bulgarian split squats, we have one more amazing benefit, which is this absolutely amazing, superb stretch for our hip flexors, our quads, and our lower abdominals, opening up our hips in the extension phase, making us far more effective at jumping, but also making our hips far safer and less prone to injury. And trick number 3, leveling up this exercise. We have got explosive one-sided overhand resistance, adding much more balance requirements, much more strength requirements, and once again directly translating into jumping beast mode. So now we can get to the jumpy part, and now you will also realize why we worked both symmetrical as well as unilateral exercises, because we will not just work on classic double-sided or symmetrical jumps, but also on unilateral jumps, which of course require more balance, more strength, more coordination, and can help us advance those aspects even more. And of course, like everything else on this channel, we're gonna go through a progression. However, first we need to think about our technique just a little bit. And when it comes to technique, there's pretty much one single thing you need to keep in mind that is going to make this a lot easier. We are jumping both forward as well as upward, meaning we want to generate our force into those two directions. That is why we have those flappy things on the sides of our shoulders. Those can help us move into the exact direction we want to go through, even though it looks a little bit stupid for now. As your verticality increases, this will become very important. Both feet flat, arms behind your body, and pull them forward. Jump with both legs, extend your hips all the way. One-sided jump, bending in hips, knees, and ankles, and once again using our arms to create more momentum. And even if you can jump a lot higher than this, I would still recommend working on a handful of jumps on a lower elevation before you move on to the higher ones within the same workout. So we've got 2 sets of tiny jumps, 5 to 6 repetitions, 2 sets of single-sided tiny jumps, 5 to 6 repetitions. Progress is really easy to measure. We've got 50 centimeters or half a meter, which is about 1.5 feet, which means that I always know how high I can jump, which is pretty much the exact same benefit we have from classic weight or hypertrophy training, because we always know how much weight we are moving, which also means that we always know if we are progressing or if we are stagnating. Our 50 centimeter technique has not changed from our 100 centimeter technique or our 120 centimeter technique. It's all the same. Same goes for our single-sided jumping technique, as well as our single-sided technique when it is higher. And then we can add one more exercise that is also a lot of fun to do, utilizing once again the same technique for horizontal jumps. And while all of those jumping exercises don't have to be done from a standing starting position, you can take a short run. Focusing on jumping from a standing position maximizes strength production while taking out most of the momentum you get from running to your jump. When it comes to programming, we'll make this very rudimentary. You've got your mobility exercises, which you will do each one of those for a full minute per set. That is a full minute of internal hip rotations, a full minute of external, a full minute of crossing over, etc., which is about 10 minutes max for mobility if you take breaks between every one of those sets. Then we've got your strength exercises, 2 sets of each one. That means 2 sets of weighted squats, 2 sets of deadlifts, and 2 sets of Bulgarian split squats, in which you will differentiate between one set, for instance, overhead jumping split squats, and classic split squats with weight on one side, giving you enough variations to change it up between every single workout, just so we can confuse those muscles. And then, as we said, we have 2 sets of tiny jumps, 2 sets of tiny single-sided jumps, and after that, you're gonna build it up like so and start jumping as high as you can 4 to 5 times in a row. Take a break of 2 to 3 minutes, bring that pulse down, take a couple of deep breaths, relax, but don't relax too much, and then you go for a second round of super high jumps. And if you have more energy after that, which I highly doubt, you will end this whole thing with a nice horizontal jumping exercise. With that said, that's everything I have for you today, but I will likely see you very soon, so until then, have a good day. Captain Cairo, peace out.